Hey, it's Scott from Family Wheels, and an exciting vehicle on the channel this week. I am in the all-new Chevy Blazer, and I think there's a lot of hype and buzz around this vehicle because the Blazer was such an iconic vehicle for Chevy back in the day. Even when I told people, hey, I'm getting the new Blazer, a lot of people were really excited about it. You might remember when Chevy actually first announced this, I think the reviews were, dare I say, a bit mixed. I kind of compare it with Ford are relaunching, I would say, the Bronco. And a lot of the stuff that we've seen, the sort of images that we've seen, really harken back to that classic Bronco look. And I think maybe people were kind of expecting the same thing from this, the new Blazer, that hopefully it would have kind of sort of that retro look, sort of like the old Blazer looked. And I think that what we have here in the new Blazer is not exactly that. One person actually commented that it almost looks like a four-wheel drive Camaro. The front is very sleek. The vehicle, you know, it definitely has this sort of new Chevy look to it. But that said, it still is very much an SUV, a Chevy Blazer. There's a lot going on here, a lot of things to talk about, and I think, like I said, people were very excited about this car. We'll put it through its paces and find out whether or not it's the right vehicle for you and your growing family. It's the all-new Chevy Blazer this week on Family Wheels. So out of the gate, I think that there's a lot to like about the all-new Chevy Blazer, even if you're not a huge fan of the looks, and we'll cover the look stuff in a little bit. But as far as sizing goes, it's a 5-seater. Somebody did ask me if it was a 7-seater because from the curb, it kind of looks, you know, like a bigger than normal SUV. I would say that this guy definitely falls into the full-size SUV camp. It's kind of in between. It's not as big as, say, a Ford Expedition, but definitely bigger than, you know, something smaller like a Jeep Compass, something like that. It's definitely larger than that, which, you know, adds to a lot of the roominess of it. A lot of the crossover segment, you know, people are going for SUVs that feel like they drive like cars. I would say that this is not that. This feels like you're almost driving something truck-like, which, you know, is what an SUV to me should feel like. So Chevy have done the right thing in my mind there. And you notice it as well when you get into the Blazer. The interior is quite roomy. You know, from the cockpit here, lots and lots of space. And that continues throughout. Lots of space in the passenger seat and the rear seat as well. Just a ton of space back there. And I like that Chevy have given us a lot of functionality. The rear seats slide forward and back, and they also recline, which is a nice feature to have. And of course, they fold flat quite easily, controlling from the rear as well. So you can fold them flat from the rear seat or from the back of the vehicle. But the fit and finish in here is really well done as well. There's not too much hard plastics, a little bit on the door here and some in the console, but otherwise I feel like everything is really nice in the interior. You got some nice, like, sort of red accent stitching, but through the column here, this is the second General Motors vehicle that I've had in probably a month. And the infotainment system is really good. We'll cover that off in a sec, but the screen looks sleek down through the console. I really like the vents here. They're these nice sort of big turbine looking things. And to adjust them, you sort of scroll the whole wheel to adjust the temperature. And they have a nice smaller wheel inside for opening and closing the vent. It's big and chunky and feels like it's in line with the whole motif of the Blazer, you know. Nice big storage cockpit below that. We get the gear shift here. 2 cup holders that are not as secure as some other vehicles. I'd like it if there was something, you know, sort of that created pressure on the cup in there to hold that from rattling around, but not the end of the world. Then we get our drive select switch here, and then of course, nice big console here, nice leather covered armrest with a lot of storage and some more USB ports underneath it as well. A couple USB ports up in the dash here too. Also in the interior, I love this moonroof. It's absolutely huge. It lets in so much light, and you can open it partially or all the way. Continuing throughout, like I said, into the back seat, Really, really spacious, well organized. There's a household outlet back here, which is a nice feature to have. Some USB ports, and then of course we get into the back where things are quite spacious, and we have a nice sort of modular rack system that's adjustable to secure some storage back there. I like that. And then of course levers to fold the seats flat. Again, very, very good, very usable, practical stuff. There's just like little perks that make owning the car a little bit easier. I'm grateful for that type of stuff. In terms of actual storage space, yeah, no problem whatsoever in the back. Passes our standardized trunk test with ease. Stroller, lots of grocery bags. Normally we do 2, but I chucked some extras in there. Soccer ball, diaper bag, camera bag, all of that, no problem. Tons of space to spare. Lots of legroom in the rear seat, and our rear-facing car seat test, no problem whatsoever. 31 inches from the back of the front passenger seat to the glove box, which is a lot of space. Decibel test, it's not too bad in here. We come in at 61 decibels at 100 kilometers an hour on dry roads, which I'm quite happy with for a car of this size. And of course, let's talk about the look back test while we're doing our standardized testing. As I was saying, it's a bit controversial. I think a lot of people were hoping for more sort of retro look. I think it kind of has a little bit of that. I like the color. It's very bright red, sort of solid. I like the big black rims, and I also really like the grille. It kind of has this sporty feel to it, but it doesn't feel like one of these SUVs that's also trying to be a sports car. This feels to me like it's firmly planted in SUV territory. It sort of has a modern 21st century look to it. I especially would say that with the color scheme on this model, I would look back more often than not. I think it's a good looking vehicle. Infotainment system, as I was alluding to, I really like what General Motors are doing here. Not too much color, but just a little bit to sort of help you navigate the screen. Everything is well laid out, very responsive. As soon as you hit a button, it goes exactly to the screen you want. This one, I would have liked a few more tactile buttons. We just have a tactile volume and power knob here, as well as a home screen, a back button, and some select forward and reverse knobs. I would have liked, I said, a little bit more than that, but otherwise it's pretty good. Steering wheel controls are fantastic. We get buttons on the front and on the back, which I actually like if they're programmed right, and they are here. Helps you navigate things and gives you a little bit more control from the steering wheel. We get tactile buttons for the climate control here as well. Bluetooth connectivity, awesome. The dash is nice and bright, easy to see. A couple of real gauges and then a digital dash in the middle that you can select through the menus on the steering wheel what you want to display there, whether it's economy stuff or speed, distance, information about the vehicle, that sort of thing. Speaking of economy, in a real world scenario, we're getting 11.4 liters for 100 kilometers. That's kind of just daily driving, combined city and highway. That works out to over 20 US miles per gallon, just over 20 US miles per gallon. So pretty decent again for a car of this size. We do have selectable drive modes here. The vehicle is all-wheel drive, but you can put it in a full-on four-wheel drive. It also has a sport mode, which I didn't really find made too much of a difference in driving it. And then there's a trailering mode as well if you like to tow. So let's talk about how the Blazer drives here. As I was saying before, I feel like it's firmly planted in an SUV category, you know, where a lot of SUVs are trying to check multiple boxes and be crossovers. This thing to me feels like an SUV. It almost feels truck-like, which again, to me, I like that. If I'm driving an SUV, I want to feel, you know, like I have the room, like it's almost like a closed-in truck, and it feels like that here. The steering, it's almost kind of lofty, you know, it's not too responsive. It's just feels big and like it has a strong presence on the road. Feels powerful when you step on the gas. Like I said, it's nothing too crazy. Doesn't feel like a sports car or anything, but there's enough get up and go there. And it just feels like spacious and like it has a strong presence on the road. It actually might be a bit too big for some people. It's only a 5-seater, but like I said, it does sort of take up a bit of space on the road and is almost like a small truck when you're trying to parallel park it. So I would caution you there, but it's definitely a comfortable, easy to drive vehicle, and I wouldn't mind driving this thing every day at all. So all in all, I think Chevy have added a pretty great vehicle to their lineup here with the new Blazer. Now, if you can get behind the looks thing, that's probably the first thing. I know a lot of people were kind of hoping for that more retro, old school looking vibe, and I'll admit that I kind of was too, but this is what we got. And the longer I spent looking at it, the more I actually kind of liked it. So if you can get behind that, then I think the Blazer is probably worth a look because, you know, there's tons of space in here and it's a very capable vehicle. Whether you want to load up the family and just go to the mall, or you're going, you know, fishing, camping, skiing, anything like that, it's going to provide you with what you need. Plus, it's a pretty comfortable daily driver as well. Like I said, it's great to have all that space in here, and we get tons of really great creature comforts. I love the size of the moonroof. The infotainment system is great, and it's definitely not too bad at the pump either. I think there's a lot to look at here and a lot of things that are checks in the positive column. I think it's probably a pretty decent choice and it's worth a look. For Family Wheels, I'm Scott.